Bible characters, Genesis series 3 part 4. Abimelech. In Genesis chapter 12 verse 11 and 12, when he was about to enter Egypt, he said to his wife Sarai, "Look, I know what a beautiful woman you are. When the Egyptians see you, they will say, 'This is his wife.' They will kill me, but let you live." Abraham had fear regarding his beautiful wife Sarah. Abraham did not lack confidence in his marriage, but he lacked confidence in God's plan and protection. If Abraham had died on account of his beautiful wife or for any other reason, God would not fulfill his promise. But still, Abraham took matters in his own hand instead of completely trusting in the God of his life. After the chat, Abraham and Sarah went through Egypt and came to Gerar. That is where they met Abimelech. And Abraham all this while clung to the lie and did not want to depart from this falsehood. Now, being the person that he is, Abimelech sees Sarah as an opportunity to be with a woman, a beautiful woman at that, which would fit with his regal position. And due to his power, Abimelech did not simply inquire whether or not Sarah was single. He had the married woman brought to him to become his concubine, according to Genesis chapter 20 verse 2. As we come to the end of the chapter, we learn that God had already vexed those in Abimelech's household. God closed all the wombs of the women as a result of the king's plan by taking Sarah for himself. This decision costed the women in Abimelech's household. Only after Sarah was returned to Abraham was this curse averted. Abimelech prayed to God and all the women were healed. His relationship with God is similar and different in ways from our own. Abimelech is a human, a sinner, much as we are, and that makes this story great for us to learn from. Through the story of Abimelech, we can see that God repays the wickedness of people, even when justice seems to be delayed. Ecclesiastes chapter 8 verse 11 states, "Because the sentence against an evil work is not executed speedily, therefore the heart of the sons of men is fully set in them to do evil." If you read about Abimelech, there are at least 3 Abimelechs or 4 mentioned in the Bible. And most of these Abimelechs came from royalty, like in the case of the one we are looking at today. Abimelech, the subject of this post, makes an appearance in the 20th chapter of the book of Genesis. We read about him just as we are given details about Abraham's continued journey with Sarah. The couple travels to Gerar, and there they meet the king Abimelech. Abimelech is the king of the area and presides over the Philistines. His run-in with Abraham can only be described as divine fate. Beginning in Genesis chapter 12, God called Abraham, whose name was Abram at the time, along with Sarai, her previous name, to journey. Their destination, the promised land where God would make Abraham into a great nation. What lessons do we glean from the life and character of Abimelech? Number one, sin has consequences. Abimelech's propensity for having concubines was not in alignment with God's definition of marriage. As he acted outside God's ideal definition, he set himself up to reap fatal consequences. Sin often presents itself as helpful for the sinner, but sin also leads us away from God. If we want to avoid the consequences, we have to keep in step with God. Abimelech corrected his behavior this time and was able to seek forgiveness for his would-be fatal consequence. Number two, sin affects others. Abimelech's actions were going to have an impact on every woman within his household. The consequences for sin were therefore not limited to him alone. Furthermore, Abimelech was being led to sin because of Abraham and Sarah's sin of lying. One action had a cascading effect. Today, thanks to Jesus, we are held to account for our sins only, but our choices, whether good or bad, still impact those around us. A drunk mother has an effect on her children. A corrupt teacher has an effect on his students. This realization adds all the more importance to our daily decisions. Number three, sin without knowing. This text, which we've read about Abimelech, suggests that at times we sin without knowing. Abimelech was acting out against God and not realizing what he was doing by taking Sarah for himself. We can read about Abimelech and place clear blame on him for having concubines. But as the king, he was acting in line with his culture. What sins are we committing by acting in line with our own culture and tradition? After Abimelech exercised his political rights as king and took Sarah for himself, he received a terrifying dream from God, as recorded in Genesis chapter 20, verse 3. But God came to Abimelech in a dream by night and said to him, "You are about to die because of the woman you have taken, for she is a married woman." The king feared the Lord, but also felt some confusion about his offense. He advocated for himself by speaking to God about his innocence, as recorded in Genesis chapter 20, verse 4. From his perspective, he did nothing wrong. Abimelech told God what Abraham told him. Sarah was a sister. Sarah too added to the lie, reaffirming that she was only a sister to Abraham. So since both the man and the woman were saying the same thing, Abimelech had no reason to suspect a lie. Since God is all-knowing, he was already aware of the lie and aware of Abimelech's innocence. Thus God tells the king that he has been kept from sinning by the Lord's will. He then tells Abimelech to return Sarah to her rightful husband. And Abimelech does just that. Like Abimelech, we need to be willing to learn and willing to change. This is Her Grace, Prophetess, Professor Abigail Carlos Manya, PhD, at Visions of Glory International. Shalom.